a truly fantastic set of responses from all you wonderful people out there who've been really kind and really supportive to me. I've never had such amazing positive feedback. I'm really going to work on all the suggestions and information I've been sent and given, and we've got a good plan in place now. So we're moving on and we're getting some feed on today. So that's what today's job is. Pretty overwhelmed, to be honest, with all the kind words and comments I had about my last video. I've done a lot of reflecting, and I've had some really interesting and great information sent my way about different things. Some people are sure there's a varroa problem, and to those people I say I agree, but we all know that when your colonies are malnourished and you do have some resisting varroa, they're going to cause havoc in weak colonies and colonies that are underfed, because anything that is not performing on its highest level, in other words, it's not healthy, it's just ticking along, anything that is of that condition in a colony that overwinters in really poor weather and that is not able to cluster is going to be susceptible to varroa, period. Without a doubt, that's the issue. And even though as I said in the video, I treated with the same chemicals last year, Amitraz, which is Apivar, I did that, and I know that my numbers were down because I did some mite washes at the end of the season, just some small ones, just some quick tests to look, and the numbers were negligible. But then we are still getting reinfection from colonies that die out. We're still getting reinfection from colonies that are robbed out by other colonies that are super strong, and then that reinfection starts. It's almost like you wonder sometimes if you treat too early, but you have to, because of that correlation, the anti-correlation, where you get the number of mites rising as the bees start to produce less bees. So in essence, what you're doing in September is, if you don't treat, you're breeding varroa. So we have to treat then. But there is this other issue where you're getting reinfection, which everybody talks about. You know, they talk about, I've treated my colonies with whatever they did, and they were low numbers, and I checked again in September, October, and now they're right up. I've just vaped and I've got 150, 200 mite drop, which is all what we're facing. And I think in some truth, that's what's happened to some of my colonies as well. They've been reinfected, or I should have just got straight into vaping as soon as I'd done my varroa treatments. But reality kicks in. There's a lovely girl in Hawaii that I wanted to visit, and I'm blinking glad I did, because I had a fantastic trip, and even though I came back and had to face the music with my bees, I have to say it was still worth it. So that's all I'm saying. But here we are now. I am going to get some of this Pollen Sub on. I put 2 Pollen Subs on yesterday, or the day before, I think it was, before I went away to visit my dad in Jersey. For the day yesterday, so that was non-workable yesterday, but it was so windy. Now we're getting some decent weather, and I'll get all this Pollen Sub on. So this week I'm visiting every apiary, I'm clearing out any remaining colonies, I'm mowing in the apiaries, I'm taking a stock of what we've got, and then I'm putting Pollen Sub on every single colony, because even if 50% of my colonies don't take up the Pollen Sub, which I think is very unlikely, the other 50% that do are still going to benefit from it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a win-win situation, and it's becoming more and more evident that we need to feed our bees. We need to give them that extra, because a lot of people are saying, oh well, I like bees to survive on what nature gives them. I completely agree, but when nature is being so possibly up and down, and there's the possible problems with climate change, and is everything else not being as it should be? Who knows? But surely giving extra Pollen Sub or proteins of certain types at the right time is only going to benefit those bees, because we have the varroa problem, and we know that bees deal with varroa better if they're healthy. We know that because the varroa gives the viruses, and who doesn't want to be healthy when they have a virus? Everybody needs to be on top form when you get a virus, if you've got any chance of fighting it, because you fight it better and stronger. And it's exactly the same for our bees or any animal. We need good nutrition, and I think it's so important. Just take a look at Ian Stepler's videos about nutrition. It's absolutely fantastic what he's doing, and he's doing lots of trials. So we're hoping to hear the news about that, Ian. Want to hear your news, what your trials were and what your ingredients were, because I'm using Ultra B. I put in my Ultra B a couple of extra things, but nothing drastic. I'm just doing what the manufacturers say, because at least I know that's a kind of a control or a good way to start. I'm going to tweak it a bit as time goes on. I've already added some other protein with a base of brewer's yeast, because I believe that vitamin B is a really important thing for bees this time of year. But saying that, I'm going to just show you a little bit of me mixing up the Pollen Sub, and then I'm going to just show a little bit putting them on, but there won't be much more than that. It's not very exciting. I'll hopefully show you some more results next week when they start to munch it down. Okay.
Nice. Just the right consistency. It'll harden a little bit anyway, so. Tastes good.
So what I've got is I put this Pollen Sub into small little packets of greaseproof paper. They'll it's like a tracing paper. It was actually a lot softer when you saw me mixing it in the workshop, but it's cooled down. And I think the honey is actually because it's spring honey and it crystallizes really quickly. I think the honey's also made it a bit thicker, which is fine. But inside, it's still. I'll show you inside. It's still a little bit moist, which is exactly what I wanted. So I'm putting this on the colonies with just this bit showing, so that the paper actually acts as almost like a moisture buffer, and it stops it drying out. So that if it lasts for 2 or 3 weeks, it means that the bees can carry on munching and it won't go hard. The only thing I find is if you put it on top of the frames without covering it up, the bee, it tends to go hard as the colony dries out in the spring. So you want it to remain as moist as possible for as long as you can. And I tell you what, it actually tastes really good, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, all I'm doing, I've got these polystyrene eeks that I was talking about before. So I've cut these out of sheets of 10 centimetre, I think it was about 10 or 12 centimetre polystyrene. And we're lifting up the top, just undoing the top section here. There's the bees, putting that back on there. And I'm literally dropping the Pollen Sub right above the bees. There it is, so that they can get right to it. So that's all they need. And then if you could actually see, that'd be a lot better. There you go. So the Pollen Sub is just literally going, look at them straight, they're straight on it, look. So I'll put that on there. That is totally insulated. So you've got, okay, that there is insulated. What I should really do is this. Actually be better if I did this. If I put that on top of the, then put the pollen, that, and then more insulation on top, because basically this heat will come up from here, and then it'll keep the Pollen Sub warm, you know, and then the bees will be straight on it. And then that, now when you put the lid back on, we've got insulation in the top here. When you put the lid back on, it covers the whole thing, and the Pollen Sub stays warm but doesn't dry out. And it's like I said about feed. If the feed is warm, they will take it up if they can, especially candy. Everything is kind of to the temperature of the core of the nest, so it's a really good thing. So I'm going to go along and put these all in a bag. Everything's going to have one of these, and I'm hoping that within a few days, I made them all small packets, but I made them deep so that it's not spread wide this time. In the summer, when I want the bees to have a bigger contact with it, in other words, I want the bees to take it down quicker, I will squash these patties down into a wider area, so that I can then score more holes in. So because I know the colonies in the summer are bigger, so the bees can come in contact with it quicker and they can take it down quicker. But there's no need now, because we're only raising small bits of brood, but it's going to start augmenting that production. So when they start, they might only take a little bit, But within 2 or 3 weeks, you'll see the hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they end up with all this, and then suddenly it's gone. And then, you know, you can put a second one on. But it means 2 things. 1, I'm just seeing how they take it up, but I know they will take it. 2, I've got an amount of protein and sugar, because there's sugar in here, above the brood nest, right above those cluster of bees. And we're going to get a little bit cold next week here, but I believe the UK and the north of England is going to get a fair bit colder. But looking at the temperature charts, there's nothing major forecast for next week for here. We're going to go and have a few frosts tonight, but it doesn't matter. So if they get a problem where there's no more food immediately available, they've got this right on top of the bees. And the other thing is, this will not dry out, as I just said. It will stay rare. So as they do increase their growth, they will be able to take out more, and I'll know, and I won't have to put too much on at once. And when I'm ready to put a bigger lump on, I will. Or I'll just put the same size lump on 2 or 3 times. What I said before is I'm going to manage every colony so individually at the moment, and I'm not just going to blanket treat everything or blanket feed. I'm going to give everything individually, because it saves you money, but you just have to put the time in. It's the way it is. It's all we can do at the moment to make sure that we maximize our kind of, well, we I suppose economize and maximize on our ability to get those bees back up and running as quickly as possible. You know, I don't want to waste money. I've got to be careful. And also the problem is I can't get Ultra Bee here in France. They'll deliver it to here, but you can't buy it here. So we have to get it shipped from a company in the UK. There is other proteins around, but they're not as good as Ultra Bee. Ultra Bee seems to really be the favourite of everybody, and I prefer to get that. It's about 100 pounds per sack of 25 kilos, but to me, it's still a good investment. So if you work it out, I mean, that's literally less than 30-40 cents per colony if you give everything. I mean, I've got enough to treat 200 colonies with one sack when you're given a small amount like this. But it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned. I cannot understand people who even question the reasons for not giving bees the best protein when you know they're going to be in a deficit, and you know they are in a deficit after winter, and there's nothing in the frames. It can only be a good thing to feed your bees. So let's get these on. That's all this lot done, and now on to the main hives all next week. A lot of work to do, but we'll get through it. Have a good weekend. Catch you again soon. Bye bye.